All right, welcome to Mr. Clean and the Barrio, Chapter 1, Jacobo. This is an award-written novel written about 10 years ago, around 2008. The boys had come in just as he was going to wash his hands. There were three of them with bald heads and baggy pants. One was fat and tall. One was his own height, about 5'9", and the last one was chaparro, with big shoulders and hands like frying pans. He walked toward a sink, but the big one stepped in the way. "Excuse me, Jacob said. "Nah, Holmes, there's no excuse for you," the torta replied. He was fat, so fat that the extra skin on his face weighed down his forehead and made it look like his eyes were half closed. He looked like a fat Asian guy. Jacob looked at the small one with his disproportioned hands and small head. Then his eyes met the one that was his own height. "These are our sinks. Each time you turn on the water, it costs $1, fool. Pay up or stay dirty," he said to Jacob with his hand out. Jacob had been in fights before, back on the west side of LA. He fought mostly black kids who didn't think he was down because he wasn't black. He wasn't a typical Mexican kid, and the black kids picked on him. This was different. He didn't know why they were doing this. To them, he just looked like an easy target, a schoolboy. "Why are you guys messing with me?" Jacob asked. "Because we can, ese. Now pay up or get out," the one that was his own height said. Jacob tried to reach around the fat one to get to the sink, but he screamed, "Pay attention!" so loud that it made Jacob jump back. "What's wrong with you? Don't you listen? Pay or leave," the fat one said angrily. He walked up on him, and now his back was against one of the stall doors. "Fine, I'll just leave," he said, while keeping eye contact. He knew that when his back was turned, they'd jump him. He took a step to the side and saw that Little Big Hands was now by the napkins. He walked towards the door and swung at the Little Buff one. Before he knew what had happened, he felt a soft hand push him from behind. His head hit the metal napkin box, and he got socked hard on the side of his head a few times. He was dazed. Two hands grabbed his blue, short-sleeved, plaid button-up shirt and swung him to the ground. Jacob screamed, "Get off! You don't know me!" "We don't need to know you, Holmes," he heard one of them say as he felt a giant foot slam into his stomach. He folded over and turned on his side in pain. Then he felt them kick him in the back. The hits didn't hurt because his adrenaline had kicked in, but he felt them moving his body and he got angry. He swung his fist and felt someone's face. He got stomped out harder. He swung at the legs, kicking him. He couldn't tell if it was doing any good. He tried to get up. He felt the weight of the fat one throw him back down like a child. Now the fat one was sitting on his chest and slapping him while the other two laughed. His hands were buried at his sides. He struggled and squirmed, but the torta weighed too much. He felt his face getting red. He felt like he was going to cry, but he hadn't cried since he was 10 years old. When Jacob was 10, he tried to shank his uncle with a kitchen knife. They were playing Operation. Tio Juan put his hand over Jacob's mouth and told him it was the anesthetic that would help numb the pain for his operation. It was fun, but that day Tio held his hand over Jacob's mouth and nose too long. His lungs were going to pop. His eyes were turning red, and he tried to scream, but nothing could get Tio off of him. Tio laughed. Finally, Jacob's mother came in and playfully slapped her brother Juan on the shoulder and said, "Déjalo en paz, Juanito." He got up and ran to the kitchen past the shocked adults. He came back an instant later. He ran toward Tio with Abuela's pollo knife, and Tio ran. He ran around the living room table, and they both stopped and stared at each other. When Jacob tried to jump over the table, Tio ran for the bathroom. It was his only hope. Jacob was right behind him. He paused in a frightened way when his mother screamed, "Jacobo!" But he saw Tio closing the bathroom door, and he threw the knife inside the bathroom just before the door closed. Tears started falling from his eyes from frustration and anger, not from fear or sadness. He banged on the door, screaming, "I'm going to kill you! I hate you!" He could hear Tio laughing behind the door, and it only made him madder. That is how Jacob felt right now. Jacob looked over and saw that the white metal napkin box was busted. The lid was on the ground. A weapon. He thought of Tio and how he tried to stab him. He thought of how the knife made a difference, made him afraid. He wished his mother would tap the fat one on the shoulder. "Get the hell off of him, Caesar, now!" he heard a grown man say. The fat one jumped up. Jacob heard walkie-talkie static. I need some backup in the boys' restroom by the gym. We got another fight. Over, the man said into his walkie talkie. Jacob didn't move. He just stared at the metal lid. Are you all right, son? The man asked. I'm okay, he said, while taking the buff black guy's hand to help him up. You all must think you're pretty tough, huh? He asked him. Look at me, boy. Pay attention, he screamed at the fat one, who seemed afraid now. 3-on-1? Does that make you a man? Makes you a damn coward if you ask me. When are you going to learn? This isn't going to get you anywhere in life. Jumping boys in the restroom doesn't make you a man. You need to get to class and stop all this nonsense. You need to focus on the future. This is some bull, he finished as another man came into the restroom. You all right in here? The new man asked. The blackguard walked past Jacob, and just as he did, Jacob pretended to be tying his shoe. With the two men talking, Caesar and his homies laughed for a second and made a joke about Jacob really wanting to wash his hands. He had the lid behind his back now, and before they knew it, Jacob was beating Caesar bloody near the urinals. The first blow struck his nose sideways. Then he hit the top of his head with a corner. He got 3 good hits in with the metal lid before the big black fool pulled him off of Caesar. God damn it, son, take it easy. Jacob was pulled up into the air with the bear hug from behind and found himself in the hallway outside of the restroom. He could hear them yelling at him from the inside. If I let you go, are you going to behave yourself? The man asked. Yes, sir, Jacob replied, trying to take a breath. The guard released Jacob from his lion's grip and chuckled. He looked at Jacob and smiled. He said, I've been waiting for someone to do that to Caesar for 3 years. Jacob didn't know what to say. He was confused. Was he in trouble or not? Then he wondered what would happen after school. The boys were obviously in a gang. Would they do a drive-by on him? He saw Melody walk by with a pass in her hand. He tried to fix his shirt and his hair, but she hardly looked at him. He was embarrassed that he looked so bad in front of the girl that he liked. What's your name, son? Jacob. I'm Dean Waterton. You can just call me Waterton. Everybody does. Nice to meet you, Waterton. The pleasure is all mine, Waterton said, and he let out another laugh. Jacob smiled. After they got down, Waterton made all the boys shake hands like they make kids do after Little League. Caesar was okay. His nose was busted, and he was too embarrassed to make a big deal about it. He suspended all of them for 2 days. They waited in the dean's office until their mothers came to pick them up or until the bell rang to end school, whichever came first. Jacob tried to fix his pant leg to make it hang just right over his shoes until Jose, the one that was his own height, decided to quietly sneak over and sit next to him. This made Jacob nervous, but he was pretty sure that Jose wouldn't do anything to him in the dean's office. Hey, where you from, Holmes? Jose asked him. Nowhere. I'm not in a gang, Jacob replied. I know you don't bang, fool, he said, and his two buddies laughed. I mean, where did you go to school before this? LA High. You know Little Spooky? Nah. Mousy? Nah. Big Loco? Nope. What did you do there, Holmes? Mostly just played ball and kept to myself. Jacob still couldn't tell if Jose was being cool now or just questioning an enemy. He leaned in and said, We didn't really mean nothing by it, Holmes. We were just messing around. Now that you broke the homie's nose, gonna have to cap you, ese, he said, while pointing his finger at him like it was a gun, pulling the trigger. Then he calmly got up and sat back with his crew.